It's been over a year since I covered the last game in the series, but now I'm back to review the finale to the Metal Gear Solid saga. Well, chronologically the final one. It's been quite a journey building up to this entry, so let's see if Guns of the Patriots closes out the series in fine fashion, as well as deliver a great game on top of it. It's been an entire game and 3 quarters since we were last in the stealth sneaking boots of Solid Snake, but now he's back and in the lead role once again. As you can see though, he's changed quite a bit since we last saw him, but so has the world he inhabits. War has become a type of business, and with Liquid, still in Ocelot's body, back on the scene ready to start a rebellion, Snake must embark on one final mission to bring peace to the economy as well as take his brother down. Again. Yeah, Liquid along with Vamp are the only notable villains in the story, which does make a change for the series' usual distinct group of foes, and in general, there's only 2 significant new characters introduced here. But what's more, and I'm not exaggerating here, pretty much every other character from this series is in this game. A couple of bosses go unmentioned, but even those who died get talked about here and there. There's no ignoring it, this is one fan service fueled plot. This will be an issue for some people, but considering this is the series' finale, I liked seeing where all the characters had ended up, and there were a few genuinely unexpected appearances. And of course it helps that by this point in the series, I've become very fond of these characters, and I really enjoyed seeing them interact with each other in what I found to be a very satisfying narrative. After I was left indifferent to 3's more character-driven approach to the storytelling, I appreciated that this game returned to giving the player an exciting mission with plenty of twists and turns and enjoyable interactions between the cast. Going into the game having only seen little bits of footage and screenshots here and there, I thought that it was going to be more bleak and serious than the previous titles. And while the story can get pretty dark in places, Kojima's charm is still in full supply, leading to plenty of moments that left me with a cheeky grin. But because the plot sees Solid Snake experiencing accelerated aging and only having a year left to live, this is his last battle, the final stand. The fan service in turn lends the story a bittersweet feel that, particularly towards the end, had me really invested in Snake's struggle. And while the hour-long cutscene that closes out the game had me antsy towards the end, it still acts as a satisfying conclusion to several story arcs. Which brings me to the cutscene length. That hour-long conclusion actually holds the Guinness World Record for the longest cutscene in video game history, but other parts sure as hell come close to matching it beforehand. You can go entire sessions without actually playing the game, and while the cutscenes mostly managed to keep me engaged, there were severe exceptions. For me, it was whenever the game got really exposition heavy that I lost interest. A lot of it is trying to apply logic and science to some of the more out there elements, even though most of the players who will have gotten to this point in the franchise will have accepted that it's a wacky series and just gone along with it. I didn't need the level of detail this game provided. And then we have these mission briefing sections that split up the acts. I do appreciate that you can interact with the environment should you wish to, but god damn, these parts bored me. The last one is the only one I felt gave me any interesting information. I actually skipped the interactive chunk of the 4th briefing, and the plot still made sense. I didn't feel like I'd lost any information. There's also action scenes that could have been trimmed down. Admittedly, they are cool, and I'd really like them in a movie, but in a video game, part of me is enjoying the sequence, but the other half just wants to get back to actually playing the game. But I suppose one of the main reasons for that is, from a gameplay perspective, this is the most fun the series has ever been. Now the basics are still the same, but it's the small additions to the formula that makes this a much smoother and enjoyable experience. In between running and crawling, you can now crouch, which adds extra strategy to the stealth. Aiming your gun in third person is much easier thanks to the perspective, but also due to the fact that you can now aim and move. Equipped to Snake's right eye is the solid eye feature, which shows you enemies' health and tells you what a collectible item is, but you can also change it to binoculars, which isn't that useful, but what is having night vision readily available to you instead of needing the goggles. Which reminds me, the inventory management from Free is back, and while it's still a little inconvenient, it's nowhere near as intrusive, and the camouflage feature is now automatic thanks to a suit upgrade, meaning I had to keep going back to the menu much less frequently. You also have Drebin's Shop, where you can buy and unlock weapons as well as get ammo for said weapons, so you won't have a shortage when you're stuck in a boss battle. And while I'm on the topic, the boss fights are fun, but not as memorable as some of the other encounters in the series. Narratively, a lot of them are the same, so while I certainly enjoyed them, they didn't really stand out except for the last few. Sorry, got a bit sidetracked there. Now where was I? The core gameplay. It's not just the little tweaks that makes this game a lot more fun when compared to its predecessors, it's how the levels add variety and creativity to the stealth. I briefly mentioned earlier that the game is split into different acts, giving way to location changes that makes things more aesthetically interesting, but also allows the gameplay to be freshened up in ways not seen in the previous entries. The stealth has always been fun, but it's never really amounted to anything more than sneaking around the enemies or taking them out, as I have always done, with a silenced pistol. This can be the case here too, but there's also plenty of instances that feel really imaginative. The environments you'll be stealthing your way through can be larger yet more linear, meaning that Death allows you to explore new possibilities and perfect your strategy. The final stealth mission in particular might get frustrating, but being just in reach of the end is one of those thrills that can't be found in any other art form. Then you've got this great part where you can sneak around with another army and help them when bullets start flying, and another unique section where you tell an agent undercover detective style whilst he keeps switching disguises. True, this particular Kojima quirk becomes a little irritating when I wound up losing the guy I was tracking, so after I take out this guard for the second time, I decide to call up Otacon for pointers.
Get your act together, Snake! You're supposed to be tailing them, not harassing them.
Oh. I mean, the disguise worked. The game has a couple of moments where I found myself struggling due to missing a tiny bit of information. It's not 100% the game's fault, but it wasn't mine either. They only cause annoyance in the moment, and most of the time, you can cruise along without too many issues in what is a very varied campaign, even outside of the stealth. There's full-on gunfights, which are really fun, and these new robots called geckos add some variety to the enemy roster. There's even the rare moment here and there where you can just traverse through the area with no imminent threat. Even when I found myself lost and confused, it was never long enough for it to become annoying, and thanks to the different locations and consistently changing gameplay, there was rarely a dull moment in the campaign. Now I know that opinions are split on this game. Some think it's amazing, whilst others found it disappointing and even have claimed it should never have been made. Well, I certainly disagree with the latter group. I really liked it. I do prefer 2 though, because even though Guns of the Patriots features the better gameplay, Sons of Liberty told this amazing story that broke the disconnect between player and character in a way that no other game has really accomplished since, and it left me with this wow feeling at the end that 4 just didn't have, thanks to its touch of self-indulgence in those overly elongated cutscenes. But still, I had a great time embarking on this thrilling adventure. No one makes video games quite like Hideo Kojima does, and while his work hasn't always agreed with me, it's an absolute blast when it does, particularly when it consistently entertains for the entire duration. 2 was one game that managed to pull that off, and this is another.
He is the legendary soldier. Call me
Comrade Katania Irenia Tatania Karenska Alisov.